start now our session. Let me introduce myself and my guest today. My name is Nurhat Kushimov. I am the CEO of Astana Financial Services Authority. And today I'm going to interview my counterpart and my friend from El Salvador. He is a president of National Digital Commission of Salvador, national regulator for cryptocurrency industry, dedicated especially for that, Juan Carlos Reyes. Please welcome. He made a very long journey to come here today for this conference, and also we couldn't miss this chance to actually extract more knowledge from him and his view to crypto, because I believe El Salvador is a very unique country, very unique example of adoption of a cryptocurrency, digital assets, virtual currency. You call it whatever you like, but it's more or less similar things, but we will dwell on the peculiarities of this technology, of this new financial instrument now. I believe that kind of this industry, it deserves the attention we are placing today on that, because it develops really rapidly. 10 years ago, it was just a small group of people outside of the traditional financial system that wanted to invest in that, which kind of developed that, which used that, kind of, and then was different prices, different liquidity. And now it's huge. It's no longer we could avoid it. So we have to deal with that. Some countries embrace it. Some countries try to regulate. Some countries and jurisdiction, people just try to avoid that. But this is the question, could we do that any longer? And there are projections that by 2030, this industry will triple. There will be trillions of dollars in that industry, and therefore that questions become even more acute. So by this, I would like to start our discussion, but before that, I also want to mention that Juan Carlos Reyes decided to spend his one-year anniversary of him being an executive president of the commissioner and the establishment of the commissioner itself here in Astana, and let's congratulate him on that. He was appointed on the 5th of September, exactly 1 year ago, and that was a good sign that he decided to do to celebrate his anniversary here. And my first question is not to him, but to the audience. Could you raise your hand if you possess any cryptocurrency? Do you have the wallet? Not many. Who does believe that the cryptocurrency will be the future of the financial system? You have a big audience to convince today, because there are many who doesn't. Could I ask you the first question? Do you have cryptocurrency yourself?
I do. I even wear it to my socks.
And now let me start with a bit more fundamental questions. Do you believe in cryptocurrency as the future means of payment, investments, and the way we do trade, finance, and more?
Nurkat, thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you, Astana, for such a warm welcoming. I never believed myself 2 years ago or a year ago that I would be in Kazakhstan, in Astana, presenting the experience of my country. And it is because of your tremendous leadership of the executive director and my dear friend Yerker Gelly that opened my eyes to understand how impressive of a regulatory body and how impressive this country really is. The expectations were set fairly high from knowing the regulators, and the country definitely has won my heart, and the people are impressive is an understatement. So to get to your point, I think that when it comes to cryptocurrencies, and I have a problem with the term cryptocurrencies. And the problem is simple. It's like me saying a car. But what type of car do you want or do you have? And then think of, in the world of, let's go even farther, let's say transportation. So the term cryptocurrency is so wide and broad, and today, sadly, because this was an industry that was started, as Nurkat said, by a bunch of young people tired of the financial sector, creating instruments, the blockchain, creating very sound technology that's open sourced, and why personally I have a problem with, as a regulator, with the term cryptocurrencies, is because that term encompasses a lot of things that I disagree with. So there is a lot of scams, there's a lot of pumps and dumps, there's a lot of people trying to take advantage of the innocence and appreciation of the industry by people that don't understand the technology. So when you ask the question about, is crypto the future? I would say no. Is Bitcoin and blockchain technology the future of the financial industry? I will 100% tell you that is not if, is when. Bitcoin, and personally I can speak of Bitcoin as a Bitcoiner, somebody that has been in the what we call the Bitcoin journey since 2013, is very sound technology. I would like to qualify my opinion by letting you know that I'm a highly educated person. I have a physics and math degree, computer science degree, mining engineering degree, master's from Harvard, completing a PhD internationally. I have dedicated time to research and understand the intricacies behind, very specifically, Bitcoin. And I can tell you that my assessment, given my qualifications, allow me to speak and say that Bitcoin alone, it is a cryptocurrency, if you would like to call it that, which hurts me when you call it that, but it is an asset class that today you might not understand. And just to say this, when you did your introduction, you said that it might be $1 trillion. No, Bitcoin alone is about $1.5 trillion as of today. It is one of the most valuable and successful asset classes in the past 10 years. It has outperformed gold, S&P 500, bonds. It is a financial instrument and asset class that it's already established. Now, my appreciation for the participants here is that I look at it, we go to the conundrum of, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? And this is a relationship of between that side and this side. I am a technology guy. I deal with digital assets, including cryptocurrencies. My dear counterpart is a traditional financial person. So when he saw the hands, he saw a glass half full. When I saw the hands, he saw a glass half empty, which I have to fill up and convince you guys. When I saw the hands, I saw a glass half full. I was very excited to see so many young people here, people that will embrace and adopt this technology and will lead the future of the financial revolution which is coming. So, short answer to your question, yes, Bitcoin and blockchain technology under regulation will be the future of the financial industry.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of expand this topic into two slightly different challenges. The first challenge is that the Bitcoin and digital assets, or I know that your preferential term is virtual assets, pause on traditional finance. And we know that there is a kind of friction between two systems now. And my question to you, what are these challenges and how traditional finance, not from the side of the digital asset industry, but from traditional asset financial industry, how they should cope with the challenges and get prepared to the future you just described?
Yeah, very good question. I think even on the, anyone in the financial industry, and every person here has faced the situation that, look, you gotta make a payment, it's Saturday, the bank is closed, and your financial freedom, your financial capability, it's dependent of the hours of the central bank. And the central bank or the banks themselves are dependent of the rules that we regulators create. So what happens with anything is that there are too many rules now, and we have millions of people around the world that are completely unbanked. And one of the reasons why these people are unbanked is because it's not feasible for banks to spend money to onboard people that have low financial capabilities, because the rules that not us have created, but the rules that internationally have been implemented for us to use by the Financial Action Task Force, which is a regulatory body, a global regulatory body, that ensures that we don't have abuses in financial systems that launder money, that increase illegal activities, that finance terrorism. All these rules have been applied now to the traditional financial industry. What blockchain technology does, and what Bitcoin or other digital asset technology does, is democratizes access to your leisure instead of the bank's leisure. Because instead of having to depend on a person, we have removed, and what blockchain technology does is removes this central figure, this banker. If you're making a financial transaction, technically what happens, you have an intermediary, your money's in the bank, you say, bank, pay this person, the bank says, yes, this person has this money and I'm gonna move it over this way. What blockchain technology does is we have validators, and every single transaction is created and it has a unique identifier when it was created. So it can always be traced. Therefore, there is no way to create a fake transaction within a blockchain a tokenization or a blockchain a digital asset. So to bring everything together, and specifically to answer your question, what blockchain technology allows us to do is complete traceability, the removal of a centralized figure to carry out your financial transactions, and most importantly, 24/7 settlement to be able to transact globally without geographical barriers. And the most important thing is that it's immutable, so nobody can fake a transaction. So this is what, it's almost when electricity was invented and we were trying to convince people that were still using candles and gas lights to adopt electricity. It's something that it is that revolutionary. It is that different, and it will be that revolutionary. So that's why I say that I'm thrilled to see so many young people here, because I still consider myself very young. so it is a challenge that we will take upon.
Thank you. You touched two interesting points, and I believe they are in the core of current regulatory discussions around the globe. Regulatory frameworks, or the regulation that kind of regulates the traditional financial finance today, which is not optimal to the speed and the current digital development of the world, that kind of, and as you way just put it, versus democratizations of the finance and personal capability and personal sovereignty of the financials and funds of every individual in the area of when kind of the globalization or the global agenda is about individualism now, that I believe two systems kind of clash. So I have a bit different question to you based on these clashes. I believe that digital asset industry as a structure today took this notion of democratization a little bit too far. And we have many crypto industry players not really fit into the regulated space yet. Mm-hmm. So what is your view on this unregulated crypto industry that exists and takes big part of the industry itself? Will it survive, and then how long it will take to them to embrace the regulatory frameworks? Will it survive? This is the first question there.
Will it survive? Fantastic question, and I think for our audience that are not regulator nerds like you and I need to explain a little bit more of why do we have the question of will it survive? And will it survive has to do with a quote that I think it's in that wall right outside that talks about the purpose of fiat money, the purpose of paper money. And that quote says, paper money, once taxes don't have to be used or don't have to be paid with paper money, the usability of it won't exist. So what are the driving factors for regulation, and what is that scares most, not just financial institutions, not just financial regulators, but governments, is to lose your tax base. And this is perhaps the big challenge of big industry, financial traditional industry, the banks as we know them, the mutual funds, etc., against the decentralized, I don't need Big Daddy or the prince or somebody looking at my financials. And this is the question. How much of that, of non-custodial, will eventually exist? How much of what we would deem money laundering possibilities, technologies that would allow me to not have to report to the government that I have to pay taxes, would allow me to fund things that, in my opinion, are correct to fund, but internationally, this could be financing of terrorism, would allow me to support things and pay for things that include what the term that we use the most of weapons of mass destruction. So the reason why these technologies, which a lot of them fall into a section that we call decentralized financing, the reason why these technologies would cease to exist is because they would not comply to our international requirements that we have for financial transparency. And that's a requirement that exists, that's very real, that needs to be fulfilled for our own safety and for the safety of the world. So the ones that will not exist or end up failing and disappear are the ones that fail to comply with the risks of financial mischief, money laundering, financing of terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, and these are tools that are used that the technology was created in a very peaceful, best thought out manner. However, we humans corrupt everything, and it will be used, and it is being used to finance terrorism. So how much of it would survive? I think that will depend on the developers of the technology trying to adopt and understand the balance between financial transparency and regulation with innovation and access to flexible products. So it's a battle we're living right now today. In El Salvador is one that we don't have to deal with, because for me, in El Salvador, I have made the decision. We're a country that has been at war for about 30, 40 years. We're a country with the average population having very scarce resources. For an average Salvadorian, for them to put money in an investment vehicle and they lose $100, it's a big impact for them. And given the fact that today a lot of the crypto industry, a lot of what is known as crypto, which in coin marketplace would be anything below Ethereum, so it'd be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT. Anything below that is highly speculative. We've decided to reduce the access or commercialization of those products. And we can, because we're the only country that has an independent commission for digital assets. This is because, as some of you might know, we adopted Bitcoin as a national currency. And through the adoption, we realized that we needed to do a lot more, that the traditional financial sector would have a real hard time implementing the rules that they're used to implement in banks, and most importantly, the supervision required to understand if the problems that I was telling you about money laundering, financing of terrorism, etc., are taking place, because it now becomes a technology. You're not showing up to a bank to audit a bunch of transactions. You are getting access to a piece of software and doing an audit on a wallet, trying to identify what transactions came in and came out. So it requires a component of technology that the traditional financial sector doesn't have. That's why in El Salvador we created the Digital Asset Commission, led by myself, that I specialize in this industry. And we have brought on board a lot of technology people that understand how this industry works and behaves. And that's how in El Salvador, the word crypto to us doesn't really exist. We are the only point of entry for any type of digital asset into the country. That means that if you're not approved by the commission, then you're violating the law. And if you're violating the law, we will come after you.
You mentioned that El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender and a national currency. I believe this is the only country in the world that did it, a very bold move. And I believe you inspired many crypto savers and people who believe in that in your country. And I would like you to develop this idea for the audience today a little bit more. What was the rationale behind of this move? What benefits you as a country to see in this move? And with the benefits, are any risks and drawbacks that also come with that, and how you cope with that?
Very good question. So in 2021, the President Nayib Bukele, just my boss, I hate to say boss but he's the boss.
Everyone has the boss.
Yes, yes. Young, brilliant, had already proven himself, had done great things for our country. If you guys have heard of El Salvador, is depending on your age, is for one of two reasons. Number one is because we're Bitcoin country. And number two, if it was pre-Nayib Bukele, you have heard of our country because we were known in 2016 as the murder capital of the world. An extremely violent country that I left when I was 5 years old. I grew up in Canada, which even myself hadn't visited because I was worried about my safety. With the election of President Bukele, the country has turned around. 360 is an understatement, has done many loops on reinventing itself. One of the reinventions, and given the fact that he's young, understands the technology, and sees the benefit of allowing the democratization of accessible finances. Now, our own currency collapsed in 2001, and collapsed by the fact that our inflation, or printing of money, was almost out of control. We did not suffer like other countries that ended up having 3,000, 7,000 exchange rate for one US dollar. However, we were heading towards that direction. So a corrective decision was made to adopt the US dollar as our national currency. So since 2001, El Salvador no longer has monetary policy that we control. We depend on the US dollar, which has worked well. It has its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages. Largest disadvantage is that if for some reason the United States disagrees with us, they can turn off the tap and we no longer have US dollars, and it could be a big danger for the country. Now it hasn't happened because we have very good relationships. We're very diligent with our regulation and our transparency, financial transparency. However, it was decided by the president after understanding, and this is the key component and something that I would like to share and leave with you guys. After learning what Bitcoin is, what Bitcoin has the potential to do, and what Bitcoin will be, everyone that we have a term called orange pilled. Everyone that swallows the orange pill and understands Bitcoin becomes a big believer and becomes a big supporter. And our president was orange pilled, and he understood the benefits of adopting Bitcoin for the nation. Now, most of the questions have been asked in Kazakhstan about the adoption of Bitcoin and are very smart questions, which I'm very impressed. Usually I get not as smart questions, but it's a testament of how amazing Kazakhstani people are, have to do with the mentality of a central bank in position of a fiat currency. Do you guys have miners and control the flow of Bitcoin? I guess for me personally and for Salvadorians, that question doesn't really fit because we already didn't have our own monetary policy. We were dependent on a third party, the United States, for monetary policy, and it worked well. And the president created an application for every single Salvadorian that allow you to set it up that you did not have to receive or take or use Bitcoin, but if somebody wanted to pay you in Bitcoin, the application would immediately convert it to US dollars, so you would only have to transact with US dollars. The law says, Article 6 of the law, 6 and 7, that any financial transaction or business dealing, governmental or with another entity, can be settled with Bitcoin. Therefore, Bitcoin became our legal currency with equal footing as the US dollar. So it's something that I hope at least one or two of you here will be orange pilled, will really take time and understand Bitcoin. It'll be to your own benefit. It's something that when you do understand it and you become a Bitcoiner, you're gonna want to come visit our beautiful country.
With that, do you have many people coming from around the globe to El Salvador to actually have this pill taken?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. One of the things, and I mean, this is another side effect of what I think the vision of the president was very benevolent, was to really give us access. The problem with Bitcoin is this. We humans look at things day to day, just And I mean, with Bitcoin, it changes every minute. Today is a 56, maybe $55,000. It's dropped. In a week, has dropped over 10%. And for most people, that creates panic. And how can you interact with a currency that drops in so much volatility? It doesn't make sense, at least when you look at it in a day-to-day basis. However, if I were to show you a chart of Bitcoin in an annual basis, so every January 1st, if I were to show you the performance annually of Bitcoin, Bitcoin has outperformed pretty much every other asset class for the past 10 years. Meaning that if you were to buy Bitcoin as opposed to gold, as opposed to bonds, as opposed to S&P 500, as opposed to many different asset classes, Bitcoin would have outperformed. Means you would have made more money with Bitcoin than you would have with any other asset class in that list. So by saying that is that we Bitcoiners that adopted Bitcoin early on, I started buying in 2013. I bought my first Bitcoin for about $600. I received Bitcoin as payment for other things. And as time went on, I had accumulated, and a lot of us Bitcoiners had accumulated some wealth, but it's a wealth that we didn't know where to use. So you were what we refer to as a crypto millionaire. Okay, you have money in crypto, but what can you do with it? So as an added benefit of the president adopting this currency to improve the life of Salvadorians, it also gave us Bitcoiners an opportunity to spend our money. So in El Salvador, my properties that I bought, I paid with Bitcoin, which is our legal currency. And if you stay with Bitcoin and you don't want US dollars, then we apply the Salvadorian rules for currency. The problem that we had is we had a lot of people that came to El Salvador and said, well, here's the Bitcoin, give me dollars. Well, it doesn't work that way. We have to have information of where the money comes from, how you made this money, did you pay taxes, is there any money laundering? So we have to apply all the American rules of transparency if you're using the US dollar. However, if you come to El Salvador, and many Bitcoiners have, as I said, Bitcoin is over $1 trillion asset class, which means there are over $1 trillion worth of Bitcoins out there. Many Bitcoiners have come to El Salvador to invest, to educate, and to be part of the financial transformation.
You described very well kind of on what the benefits you created for the global Bitcoin community, that they can spend their money, they kind of feel that they're part of the financial system. But I would also like to explore the question what it brings for the country itself. Mm-hmm. So kind of now in the US with the election, there is a question whether a country, I don't want to refer to the US or El Salvador, a country needs to have their reserves also built with Bitcoin or any other digital asset instrument. But with your experience, does El Salvador view Bitcoin or any other digital asset currency as their national reserves, mm-hmm. and what the impact it has for the macroeconomy?
Good question. Let me put it this way, and you don't have to raise your hand because it is almost a rhetorical question. How many people here in their pocket has a cell phone? Well, gentlemen, he has two. But everyone here has a cell phone, and we depend on a cell phone. Tell you something, back when I worked in Silicon Valley in 1999, cell phones weren't that prolific. Smartphones, we had the BlackBerry, which was a Canadian company. Most of you young people have never even heard of that. Nurkat remembers the BlackBerry. But
I remember Nokia as well.
Yeah, but the idea of having this powerful device in your pocket that we all depend on right now, and it was inconceivable. It was something that we didn't really were able to see, except if you were in the industry. If you were in the industry, you knew that was coming. It's like, and who were in the industry? Well, developers like myself, and young people that wanted to find the latest and coolest thing that came out. Now, I make this example because when it comes to Bitcoin in specific, and when it comes to national treasures, Bitcoin started what we called the white paper in 2008. This gentleman by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, which nobody knows who he is, wrote a document.
I thought it's you.
This conversation is over. The white paper came out and it talked about a peer-to-peer payment system titled Bitcoin and proposed a mathematical solution to be able to have the centralized authority removed and the anonymity. That means that you don't have to know who I am, but you will receive a payment. You don't have to declare who you are. It created a new way to transact, and this is 2008, so it's a while back now. I mean, some of you were maybe not even born or little children, but it's not, Bitcoin didn't start yesterday. Bitcoin has been around for years, has proven itself. This mathematical brilliance, this code that was created, that started Bitcoin, has proven itself. It's very simple. It runs on a mathematical equation. It can't be hacked. It's very transparent. It is a marvel of financial intellect. And that's really, without exaggeration, how I described it. Now, it has started to gain international adoption. For us, last year, the big happening was when the person that controls the most money in the world, the president of a company called BlackRock, which controls over $1 trillion, changed his tune and he said, you know what? I've been orange-pilled. Bitcoin is the future. When you have the most powerful person, financial powerful person in the world, being orange-pilled because he took the dive, understood and said, yes, this makes sense. And this created ways for the ETFs, the electronic transfer funds, that electronically traded funds, which is a way for the traditional financial sector to buy Bitcoin. This was inconceivable. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Bitcoin was something that only the criminals use. Bitcoin is something that only a few nerds among themselves use. Then Bitcoin was something that only a third world country adopted. Now you have the US elections where one of the persons running for president has said, if I get elected, I will make part of the national treasury in Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin, given that it's a mathematical equation, has a limit of how many Bitcoins will ever exist, and that limit is 21 million coins. 94% of those 21 million coins have already been created. It is estimated that about 15 to 20% of those coins are lost forever. 5% of all the Bitcoins are held by the big wallets that control the market makers, the big players, but that's only 5%. About 80% of all Bitcoins in existence are held by Bitcoiners, persons like myself, that when I see Bitcoin price drop, most persons will start crying and say, I lost my money. I get all excited. I'm like, it's a buying opportunity. So, and just like myself, there are many, and this is what's going to drive the price of Bitcoin to an asset class that it started as a peer-to-peer payment system. It migrated to digital gold, that it has more resilience and better tools to store value than gold. And the fifth epoch, so that means the fifth generation of Bitcoin, which starts now, will see Bitcoin used as a national and financial strength reserves by banks, by large companies, and the price, when that adoption takes place, will skyrocket Bitcoin to unthinkable amount. So it is the vision, and the president has seen this because he's a Bitcoiner, that he's decided to make our national reserve in our country in Bitcoin. We have a policy in our country that we buy at least one Bitcoin a day, every day. We have a Twitter channel that shows every day the purchase of the Bitcoin. It's something that we Bitcoiners look at every day. And it's a policy that right now sounds very innovative, and for the traditional financial people might be like, it sounds kind of crazy. But I guarantee you, without a doubt, that the next 12 months to a year, to 2 years, this would be a proven strategy.
How big is the Bitcoin national reserves of El Salvador these days?
We're close to 6,000 Bitcoins as national reserves. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With that kind of view of the country itself, that it allowed it as a legal tender, it is the benefits for people. The government or the president use it as a national reserves. Kind of there seems to be like a mass adoption of the Bitcoin in the country, but I do have the view that the traditional finance is still opposing that everywhere, and kind of knowing that U.S. Monetary policy now, I believe, and your dependency on the U.S. market and U.S. dollar system, that it should, in my view, create strong frictions in the system. So could you explain to us how because I know that in theory, but how in particular country which had this mass adoption of Bitcoin, how the system coexists, and how two systems works together, and what the view of a traditional banks, commercial banks, to the Bitcoin and Bitcoin players. Do they serve them well? Do they view them positively? Or they still kind of didn't come to a mutable mechanism of systems where two could coexist?
Let me, as a regulator, may make a big clarification from the beginning. We do not have mass adoption. The reason, it depends how I define mass adoption. Mass adoption in the country, I can guarantee you that every single citizen in El Salvador has heard, known, or had information or access to Bitcoin. If we refer to that as mass adoption, then we do have the largest mass adoption in the world. When it is about using Bitcoin as a payment mechanism, the adoption logically doesn't make much sense given the day-to-day instability of Bitcoin. That it might be up 20%, might be down 10, might be down 30, might be up 50. Makes it very difficult for someone with limited resources to use it as a payment tool. Which goes back to what Bitcoin was initially created for. The first vision was a peer-to-peer payment system. However, it has grown to shed that part, or it can still be used as a peer-to-peer payment system, and it is used, but it is one that we have better tools that are blockchain-based, and we have the US dollar that work much better for that perspective. So the mass adoption of Bitcoin, from the learning side, the understanding the benefits of blockchain technology, and the adoption of technology in general, we do owe that to Bitcoin. So most citizens don't use Bitcoin. Now, to your question about the battle that we're on with the traditional financial institutions, this is mainly because of lack of understanding. We all fear what we don't understand. I was in a position when I came in, and as Nur had mentioned, yesterday was my 1-year anniversary of being the executive director and president of the commission. And one of the biggest task that I had to do was to defend our country. Defend our country from the position, as you mentioned, of the traditional financial industry, thinking that because we adopted a digital asset as a currency, we will now become a source for money laundering. We will now become a source for financing of terrorism. And given the fact that the information that most people in the traditional financial industry have about the realities or the functionality of the way it works, the technology, it is justifiable, not right, but justifiable to understand why they think like that. Now, the reality is completely different because this US dollar, I can pull out a $100 US bill out of my pocket, and you will never know if it has blood. You will never know if it transacted drugs. You will never know the background of this US dollar. You will never know if it was used to pay for child pornography, if it was used to pay for drugs. We will never know that. On the other hand, because blockchain technology, it's a digital creation that follows every single transaction from its inception to anywhere it goes, we do know that. We have full traceability, we have full information on every single transaction that has been done on the blockchain. What this allows us to do is, I know if this money was used to finance terrorism. I know if this money was acquired through money laundering. And it's the transparency we have now gained that anyone that understands the technology would never, ever use this technology to launder money. However, because the regulators and the main regulators, the Financial Action Task Force, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, they don't understand the technology, and they have seen bad examples. I mean, in the news today was of a cryptocurrency, which is probably some scam, was hacked. There were $23 million stolen, and that money was laundered under this process. Those are the things that will never happen in my country because I'm the regulator, and I would never allow any of those, what I would call them sanctioned products, anything that has a high risk to come into the country. So overall, what regulators and people in general need to understand is that what you see on the media and what we allow into the country, the rules that we create to ensure safe use of digital assets, are completely different. We have created an ecosystem with one single point of entry, which is us, the Commission, the National Commission of Digital Assets. And if you are doing, transacting, selling, promoting of any digital assets without our permission, you are breaking the law, and we will find you, and we will fine you, or we will put you in jail. So therefore, it can be a complete control ecosystem. All of this stuff that you hear in the news doesn't apply to El Salvador because there's criminality everywhere in the world. And if it's happening in El Salvador, it's breaking the law, and we will shut them down. So the big message is that the perception that's created by the media to discredit the importance and the transparency of blockchain technology has filtered down to regulators that make us fear everything that comes in through the door.
May I ask a more direct question on my previous one? Does the banks in El Salvador serve digital asset community well?
No.
And with that comes my next question, because I knew the answer to that question. And we here also experience these frictions between traditional financial system and crypto system. That's why we run a pilot project together with commercial banks and digital asset trading facilities. We also don't call them crypto exchanges. And this is a kind of difficult process. And there are many other ideas around how to bypass the whole system and to create absolutely new system. And one of the tools to bypass it is to create a crypto bank, or if you don't like it, the term crypto, to create a digital asset bank, which will bypass a fiat traditional financial systems whatsoever. It will open your bank account in digital asset, it will give you a loan in digital asset, it will take deposit from you in digital asset. So it will operate in a way traditional banks operate, but the full system will work based on the digital assets. Because your country is so unique, I would just want to learn, do you consider establishing an absolutely different kind of a new layer of a financial system where you bypass a traditional system absolutely, with and a more specific question, whether you consider creating a digital asset or crypto bank system in El Salvador?
Good question, and I mean, I have to be careful how I answer this because as a regulator, I want to first and
as a regulator, you never commit.
First and foremost, guaranteed and let everyone know that for us, financial transparency, KYC, knowing your client, and the rules that have been created to protect us from financial malpractice are essential, are needed. So those are not going away. However, as you did mention, and the reality is that banks or banks in El Salvador are in a tough situation. As I said before, we're dollarized, we depend on the US dollar. If whatever decision they make, every single bank in El Salvador depends on a corresponding bank in the United States. And even the banks here, they have corresponding banks. But if they do something that the corresponding bank feels it might put them at any risk, the corresponding bank can easily just close the account and say, look, I don't need to do business with you because it's dangerous for myself. And so I understand the position as a regulator where the banks find themselves. On top of that is the banks have already a cash base. They have products that they sell that they make very good money from. And to open the doors to accept a crypto payment that it'll be just myself moving $1 million and I don't need any product that the bank gives me. So I will take it out the next day and I will use it to pay my employees or buy a building or whatever. The risk that the bank takes just to have that transaction go through the bank and the requirements that we as regulators demand from them for anti-money laundering, information of the client, is a lot of work for traditional banks. And it's a big burden for them to impose these things on them. So in El Salvador, I think that whatever solution we implement today, it be transitional. I do believe, just as BlackRock, Fidelity, and all the big financial players, except one player that still doesn't believe in Bitcoin, as all the financial players understood and adopted Bitcoin, I do believe that within the next year, banks are very slow, maybe 2 years, there will be sound solutions. There will be a full integration and adoption of certain blockchain technology, not necessarily Bitcoin, but certain ways to transact. It might be national digital currency from a country that has sound monetary policy. There will be something that's coming. So transitionally, what we have done in El Salvador and something that we're looking at, and it's a solution that the Commission is spearheading, is the creation of private banks that will work in digital currencies. in order to not create friction with the traditional banks, we've created the barriers to entry for these private banks to be extremely high. We have regulation, banking infrastructure regulation, known as Basilea, that set the premises to open a bank, and one of them is social capital to open a bank has to be between $5 to $10 million, or private bank law says that it's $50 million. We have a rule that says that this bank can only interact with qualified investors. Internationally, Canada and the States, many countries, qualified investor is someone that demonstrates $100,000 in liquidity. In El Salvador, a country that's very poor, we qualified investors is $250,000. So what we've done is we created this private bank trying to make sure that we respect the clients that the traditional bank has, and this new private bank, which will work in crypto as well, is there to serve the industry of digital assets. So it's a bank transitory solution for the digital assets. And it's the way I think we're starting it, but I do believe that the regulation internationally, especially in the United States, will change and will be more adoptive of the technology.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos, for your answers. I believe a lot of people, when they saw, and some of them shared with me, that when they saw the announcement that you're coming and will be interviewed with you, many people believe that you will be another crypto nerd. But from your answers, I see that you're more regulator than any of us who came from a traditional regulatory environment, and then all the measures that kind of you're proposing now with these private banks and the way you regulate the cryptocurrency industry or digital asset industry in your country, and the way you kind of see it in the future is actually very traditional in its core.
Thank you. That's a fantastic compliment. And before we close, I do want to do a ceremony. I want to induct you by giving you an official Salvadorian Bitcoin shirt.
I thought there will be an orange peel you give me. Now, thank you very much, everyone. Let's give a round of applause to Juan Carlos for his very long journey to Kazakhstan and a very insightful responses and interview. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Еркіндік деген не? Сізге лайық жайлылық, жақындарыңызбен маңызды сәттерді өткізу мүмкіндігі. Ұмытылмас эмоциялар сыйлайтын сүйікті іспен айналысу. Маңызды жайттың толық бөлшегі болу. Freedom Broker сіздің шынайы еркіндікке алғашқы қадамыңыз.
Что такое свобода? Комфорт, который ты заслуживаешь. Возможность создавать важные моменты с близкими. Заниматься любимым делом, которое дарит незабываемые эмоции. И быть полноценной частью чего-то значимого. Freedom Broker – ваш первый шаг к истинной свободе.
Запуск этого проекта придаст импульс развитию не только экономики данного региона, но и всего Казахстана.
Descendants of the Great Steppe founded modern Kazakhstan. This land has become home to many people who live in harmony with nature and the world around them. The country has been a reliable logistical hub of the Great Silk Road for hundreds of years. Today, the younger generation continues to develop the economy, technology, architecture, sports, and the arts. Visa strives to multiply these achievements by providing new opportunities for the citizens of Kazakhstan. Let us go back in time and remember the highlights of our collaboration. Visa started its activities in Kazakhstan in 1992. Since then, Visa has been incorporating new technologies into everyday life. Visa works 24/7 to be there for customers at all times. Supports women entrepreneurs by providing them with grants for business development, educational programs, and the opportunity to gain knowledge and experience from successful businesswomen. Together with the National Payment Corporation and our partners, Visa supported the launch of Kazakhstan's national digital currency, Digital Tenge. Visa enabled the launch of a first-of-its-kind card linked to the Digital Tenge, which combines advanced payment technologies with a familiar consumer experience. All this became possible thanks to the trust of every client and colleague in Kazakhstan. Together, we make this world better. Together with you. Together with Visa.
Біздің достығымыз уақыт сынағынан өтіп, 30 жыл ішінде нағыз гауһар тасқа айналды. Оның әрбір қыры біреудің бақытты сәттері, біреудің жетістігі немесе арманының жүзеге асуы, орындалған армандары. Біз Қазақстан тұрғындарының өміріне оң өзгерістер енгізіп отырғанымызға қуаныштымыз. Біздің клиенттермен қарым-қатынасымыз гауһар тастың беріктігі секілді ұзақ мерзімділікке, сенімділікке және тазалыққа негізделген. 30 жылдағы ең үлкен жетістігіміз қандай? Клиенттердің сенімі. Ол гауһар тастай өте қымбат.
Nowadays, ERG represents 1/3 of the mining and metallurgical complex of Kazakhstan. We are the only manufacturer of high-grade aluminum in Kazakhstan. ERG is the world leader in ferrochrome production. ERG is a major railway operator in Central Asia. We are one of the key suppliers of electrical power in Kazakhstan. It is one of the largest suppliers of iron ore in the Eurasian region. ERG has invested more than $14 billion in the development and modernization of enterprises in Kazakhstan. ERG allocated more than $1 billion into social projects. ERG employs more than 60,000 people. ERG paid more than 3.5 trillion tenges as tax contributions to the budget of Kazakhstan over 30 years, making over 2.5% of the country's GDP. Eurasian Resources Group, to be the best at what we do, to go forward along with the world progress holding true to our values, to discover carefully the potential of the earth and humanity, ensuring prosperity for those who rely on us.
Imagine a world where your assets trade 24/7 and settle and transfer at the speed of light. Equities, bonds, and other products can be issued as digital tokens with clearly defined rights and obligations, leveraging the best of traditional finance and digital asset technology. Bitfinex Securities is a fully regulated exchange licensed for both primary market issuances and secondary market trading. And in just a few days, Tether is launching a revolutionary new platform that bridges the gap between the physical and digital worlds, making it even easier for issuers on Bitfinex Securities to create and manage tokenized securities. You are now in a world where you can ensure the true value of your assets will be realized, with your tokens traded on markets used by some of the world's largest investors. Thanks to the vision of regulatory regimes in the AIFC, and now also El Salvador, issuers and investors can interact in a fully regulated and transparent environment. Regulation is meeting innovation. Bitfinex Securities allows issuers and investors to interact more directly, with no middleman, increasing efficiency and keeping costs down. Get ready for the next generation of capital markets, where possibilities are limitless. Tether, bridging the digital and physical worlds, one token at a time. Bitfinex Securities, a global marketplace for tokenized securities.
At MasterCard, we are focused on a world beyond. Beyond the card as we know it. Beyond payments as we know them. Beyond the digital divide. Because at MasterCard, we are focused on where the world is going next. Towards safer and even more secure digital transactions. Where contactless technology is within the reach of everyone. And money moves effortlessly, in real time across borders. Where buy now, pay later plans give people more choice and flexibility. And multiple payment options make new choices possible. Where fraud and security concerns are reduced and every transaction can be trusted. Where we leverage our technology leadership to develop digital-first, data-driven innovations and enable new networks beyond payments. And where people everywhere connect to the priceless possibilities in life. At MasterCard, we're creating this world right now. And we're creating this world not for a few, but for all. Because our focus, as always, is on improving people's lives, on working side by side with our partners to deliver game-changing capabilities, and on building one of the world's most admired brands. At MasterCard, we are focused on a world beyond and on all the people who live there, because that's a world that's truly priceless.